Marqui of Wen, defeats Tsao. It was one Mai Chu who said he knew how to defeat Tsao utterly. He came of a wealthy family of merchants trading in Luoyang. One day, traveling homeward from that city in a carriage, he met an exquisitely beautiful lady trudging along the road, who asked him to let her ride. He stopped and yielded his place to her. She invited him to share the seat with her. He mounted, but sat rigidly upright, never even glancing in her direction. They traveled thus for some miles when she thanked him and alighted. Just as she left, she said, "I am the embodied spirit of the southern heat. I am on my way to execute a decree of the Supreme to burn your dwelling, but your extreme courtesy has so deeply touched me that I now warn you. Hasten homeward, remove your valuables, for I must arrive tonight." Thereupon she disappeared. Mai Chu hastily finished his journey, and as soon as he arrived, moved everything out of his house. Sure enough, that night, a fire started in the kitchen and involved the whole house. After this, he devoted his wealth to relieving the poor and comforting the afflicted. Tiao Xiaoqin gave him the office he then held. The plan he proposed was this: I will go to Pohai and beg KʻUng to help. Another should go to Qingchao on a similar mission, and if the armies of these two places march on our enemy, he will certainly retire. The prefect accepted the plan and wrote letters. He asked for a volunteer to go to Qingchao, and a certain Tang offered himself, and after he had left, Mai Chu was formally entrusted with the mission to the north. Meanwhile, they would hold the city as they could. This KʻUng was a native of Chufu in the old state of Lu, one of the 20th generation in descent from the great teacher Confucius. He had been noted as a very intelligent lad, somewhat precocious. When 10 years old, he had gone to see Lai Ying, the governor, but the doorkeeper demurred to letting him in. But when he said, "I am Minister Lai's intimate friend," he was admitted. Lai asked him what relations had existed between their families that might justify the term intimate. The boy replied, "Of old my ancestor KʻUng questioned yours, Lao Tzu, whose name was Lai concerning ceremonies. So our families have known each other for many generations." His host was astonished at the boy's ready wit. Presently another visitor of high rank came in, to whom Lai Ying told the story of his youthful guest. "He is a wonder, this boy," said Lai. The visitor replied, "It does not follow that a clever boy grows up into a clever man." The lad took him up at once, saying, "By what you say, sir, you are certainly one of the clever boys." They all laughed. "The boy is going to be a noble vessel," said they. Thus from boyhood he was famous. As a man he rose to be a Chunglang Chiang and was sent as governor to Pohai, where he was renowned for hospitality. He used to quote the lines, "Let the rooms be full of friends, and the cups be full of wine. That is what I like," said he. After 6 years at Pohai, the people were devoted to him. The day that Mai Chu arrived, he was, as usual, seated among his guests, and the messenger was ushered in without delay. In reply to a question about the reason of the visit, he presented his letter, which said that Tsao was pressing on the city, and the prefect prayed for help. Then said KʻUng, "Your master and I are good friends, and your presence here constrains me to go to his aid. However, I have no quarrel with Tsao either, so I will first write to him to try to make peace. If he refuses my offer, then I must set the army in motion. Tsao will not listen to proposals of peace. He is too certain of his strength," said the messenger. KʻUng wrote his letter and also gave orders to muster his men. Just at this moment happened another rising of the Yellow Turbans, and the ruffians began to rob and murder at Pohai. It was necessary to deal with them first, and KʻUng led his army outside the city. The rebel leader rode out to the front, saying, "I know this district is fruitful and can well spare 10,000 stone of grain. Give me that and we retire. refuse, and we will batter down the city walls and destroy every soul." The prefect shouted back, "I am a servant of the great hands, entrusted with the safety of their land. Think you I will feed rebels?" The leader Quan Hai whipped his steed, whirled his sword around his head and rode forward. Tsung Pao, one of KʻUng's captains, set his spear and rode out to give him battle, but after a very few bouts was cut down. Soon the soldiers fell into confusion and rushed pell-mell into the city for protection. The rebels then laid siege to the city on all sides. Jung was very downhearted, and Mai Chu, who now saw no hope for the success of his mission, was grieved beyond words. The sight from the city wall was exceeding sad, for the rebels were there in enormous numbers. One day, as the prefect stood on the wall, he saw a man armed with a spear riding hard in among his enemies, and scattering them before him like chaff before the wind. Before long, he had reached the foot of the wall and called out, "Open the gate!" But the defenders would not open to an unknown man, and in the delay a crowd of rebels gathered round the rider along the edge of the moat. Suddenly wheeling about, the warrior dashed in among them and bowled over half a score, at which the others fell back. At this the prefect ordered the wardens to open the gates and let the stranger enter. As soon as he was inside, he dismounted, laid aside his spear, ascended the wall and made humble obeisance to Jung. He said his name was Tashi Tzu, and he came from Lei Huang. His aged mother had sent him out of gratitude for the kindness shown her by KʻUng. "I only returned home yesterday from the north, and then I heard that your city was in danger from a rebel attack. My mother said you had been very kind to her and told me I should try to help. So I set out all alone, and here I am." This was cheering. The prefect already knew Tashi by reputation as a valiant fighting man, although they two had never met. The son being far away from his home, the prefect had taken his mother, who dwelt a few miles from the city, under his especial protection, and saw that she did not suffer from want. This had won the old lady's heart, and she had sent her son to show her gratitude. KʻUng showed his appreciation by treating his guest with the greatest respect, making him presents of clothing and armor, saddles and horses. Presently said Tashi, "Give me a company, and I will go out and drive off these fellows. You are a bold warrior, but these are very numerous. It is a serious matter to go out among them," said KʻUng. "My mother sent me because of your goodness to her. How shall I be able to look her in the face if I do not raise the siege? I would prefer to conquer or perish. I have heard Luo Guanzhong is one of the finest warriors in the world, and if we could get his help, there would be no doubt of the result. But there is no one to send. I will go as soon as I have received your letter." So KʻUng wrote letters and gave them to his new helper. Tashi put on his armor, mounted his steed, attached his bow and quiver to his girdle, took his spear in his hand, tied his packed haversack firmly to his saddle bow, and rode out at the city gate. He went quite alone. Along the moat, a large party of the besiegers were gathered, and they came to intercept the solitary rider. But he dashed in among them and cut down several, and so finally fought his way through. The rebel leader, hearing that a rider had left the city, guessed what his errand would be and followed Tashi with a party of horsemen. He spread them out so that the messenger rider was entirely surrounded. Then Tashi laid aside his spear, took his bow, adjusted his arrows one by one, and shot all round him. And as a rider fell from his steed with every twang of his bowstring, the pursuers dared not close in. Thus he got clear away and rode in hot haste to Luo Guanzhong. He reached Pingyuan, and after greeting his host in proper form, he told how KʻUng Pohai was surrounded and had sent him for help. Then he presented the letter, which Liu Pei read. "Who are you?" asked he. "I am Tashi Tzu, a stupid fellow from Tunghai. I am not related by ties of kin to KʻUng Jung, nor even by ties of neighborhood, but I am by the bonds of sentiment, and I share his sorrows and misfortunes. The rebel Quan has invested his city, and he is distressed with none to turn to, and destruction is very near. You are known as humane and righteous, and you are able to rescue him. Therefore, at his command, I have braved all dangers and fought my way through his enemies to pray you to save him. Liu Yuantair smiled, saying, "And does he know of my existence?" So the three brothers told off 3 companies and set out to help raise the siege. When the rebel leader saw these new forces arriving, he led out his army to fight them, thinking he could easily dispose of so small a force. The brothers and Tzu with them sat on their horses in the forefront of their array. Quan Hai, the rebel leader, hastened forward. Tzu held back to allow Quan Yu to open the combat. He rode forth and the 2 steeds met. The soldiers set up a great shout, for how could there be any doubt of the result? After a few bouts, Black Dragon rose and fell, and with the stroke fell the rebel leader. This was the signal for the 2 other warriors to take a share, and they advanced side by side. With their spears ready they dashed in, and Yuantair urged forward his men. The besieged prefect saw his doughty rescuers laying low the rebels as tigers among a flock of sheep. None could withstand them, and he then sent out his own men to join in the battle, so that the rebels were between 2 armies. The rebels' force was completely broken and many men surrendered, while the remainder scattered in all directions. The victors were welcomed into the city, and as soon as possible a banquet was prepared in their honor. Mai Chu was presented to Liu Yuantair, and he related the story of the murder of Tsu, sung by Chang Ki, and Tsu's vengeful attack on Suchu, and his coming to beg for assistance. Yuantair said, "Tiao Kung Tsu is a kindly man of high character, and it is a pity that he should suffer this wrong for no fault of his own." "You are a scion of the imperial family," said the prefect, "and this Tsu is injuring the people, a strong man abusing his strength. Why not go with me to rescue the sufferers?" "I dare not refuse, but my force is weak and I must act cautiously," said Liu Pei. "Though my desire to help arises from an old friendship, yet it is a righteous act as well. Is it that your heart is not inclined toward the right?" said KʻUng. Liu Pei said, "This being so, you go first and give me time to see Kungsun San from whom I may borrow more men and horses. I will come anon." "You surely will not break your promise," said the prefect. "What manner of man think you that I am?" said Yuantair. "The wise one said, 'Death is common to all. The man without truth cannot maintain himself. Whether I get the men or not, certainly I shall myself come.'" So the plan was agreed to. Mai Chu set out to return forthwith while Jung prepared for his expedition. Tzu took his leave, saying, "My mother bade me come to your aid, and now happily you are safe. Letters have come from my fellow townsman, Liu Yu, governor of Yangchu, calling me thither, and I must go. I will see you again." KʻUng pressed rewards upon him, but he would accept nothing and went away. When his mother saw him, she was pleased at his success, saying, she rejoiced that he had been able to prove his gratitude, and after this he departed for Yangchu. Here nothing will be said of the departure of the relieving force. But Yuantair went away to his friend Kungsun San, and laid before him his design to help Suchu. "Tsu, and you are not enemies. Why do you spend yourself for the sake of another?" said San. "I have promised," he replied, "and dare not break faith." "I will lend you 2 companies, horse and foot," said San. "Also I wish to have the services of Ko said Yuantair. San agreed to this also. They marched away, their own men being in the front and Ko with the borrowed men being in rear. In due course, Mai Chu returned saying that Jung had also obtained the services of the 3 warrior brothers. The other messenger, Chern Yuanlung, came back and reported that KʻUng would also bring help. Then was the prefect's heart set at ease. But both the leaders, though they had promised aid, greatly dreaded their antagonist and camped among the hills at a great distance, fearful of coming to close quarters. Tsao knew of their coming and divided his army into parts to meet them, so postponing the attack on the city itself. Presently Liu Pei came up and went to see Jung, who said, "The enemy is very powerful, and Tsao handles his army skillfully. We must be cautious. Let us make most careful observations before we strike a blow. What I fear is famine in the city," said Liu Pei. "They cannot hold out very long. I will put my men with yours under your command while I with Chang Fei make a dash through to see Tsao and consult with him." Jung approved of this, so he and KʻUng took up positions on the ox-horn formation, with Kuan Yu and KʻUng on either side to support them. The day that Liu Pei and his company made their dash to get through Tsao's army, they got as far as the flank of his camp, when there arose a great beating of drums, and horse and foot rolled out like billows on the ocean. The leader was Yu Qin. He checked his steed and called out, "You mad men from somewhere, where are you going?" Chang Fei heard him but deigned no reply. He only rode straight to attack the speaker. After they had fought a few bouts, Yuan Ter waved his double sword as signal for his men to come on, and they drove Yu Qin before them. Chang Fei led the pursuit, and in this way they reached the city wall. From the city wall, the besieged saw a huge banner embroidered in white with the name of Liu Pei, and the prefect bade them open the gate for the rescuers to enter. The leader was made very welcome, conducted to the residency, and a banquet prepared in his honor. The men also were feasted. Tsao was delighted with Liu Pei, admiring his noble appearance and clear speech. He bade Mai Chu offer him the seal and insignia of office, but the visitor shrank back startled. "What does this mean?" said he. Tiao said, "There is trouble on every side and the kingly rule is no longer maintained. You, sir, are a member of the family and eminently fitted to support them and their prerogatives. I am verging on senility and I wish to retire in your favor. I pray you not to decline, and I will report my action to the court." Liu Pei started up from his seat and bowed before his host, saying, "Scion of the family I may be, but my merit is small and my virtue meager. I doubt my fitness even for my present post, and only a feeling of doing right sent me to your assistance. To hear such speech makes me doubt. Surely you think I came with greed in my heart. May God help me no more if I cherished such a thought." "It is a poor old man's real sentiment," said Tiao Xiaqin. Time after time Tiao Xiaqin renewed his offer to retire, but how could Liu Pei accept it? In the midst of this came Mai Chu to say the enemies had reached the wall, and something must be done to drive them off. The matter of one officer retiring in favor of the other could await a more tranquil time. Said Liu Pei, "I ought to write to Tsao to press him to raise the siege. If he refuse, we will attack forthwith." Orders were sent to the three camps to remain quiescent, till the letters could reach Tsao. It happened that Tsao was holding a council when a messenger with a war letter was announced. The letter was brought in and handed to him, and when he had opened and looked at it, he found it was from Liu Pei. "This is the letter, very nearly. Since meeting you outside the pass, fate has assigned us to different quarters of the world, and I have not been able to pay my respects to you. Touching the death of your noble father, the Marqui, it was owing to the vicious nature of Chang Ki, and due to no fault of Tiao Kung-Tsu. Now, while the remnant of the Yellow Turbans is disturbing the provinces and Tung Chou's partisans have the upper hand in the capital, I would that you, illustrious sir, would regard the critical position of the court rather than your personal grievances, and so divert your forces from the attack on Suchu to the rescue of the state. Such would be for the happiness of that city and the whole world. Tsao gave vent to a torrent of abuse. Who is this Liu Pei that he dares write and exhort me? Beside, he means to be satirical. He issued orders to put the bearer of the letter to death and to press on the siege. But KʻUng remonstrated. Liu Pei has come from afar to help Tiao, and he is trying the effect of politeness before resorting to arms. I pray you, my master, reply with fair words that his heart may be lulled with a feeling of safety. Then attack with vigor, and the city will fall. Tsao found this advice good, so he spared the messenger, telling him to wait to carry back his reply. While this was going on, a horseman came with news of misfortune. Lu Pu had made a raid on Yanchu. When Lai and KʻUng, the two partisans of Tung Chou, succeeded in their attack on the capital, Lu Pu had fled to Yuan Shu, who however looked askance at him for his instability, and refused to receive him. Then he had tried Yuan Shao, who had made use of him in an attack upon Chang Yin in Changshan. But his success filled him with pride, and his arrogant demeanor so annoyed the other commandants that Shao was on the point of putting him to death. To escape this, he had gone away to Chang Yang, who accepted his services. About this time, Piang Su, who had been protecting Lu's family since his disappearance, restored them to him, which deed angered Lai and KʻUng so that they put Piang to death, and wrote to Lu Pu's protector to serve him the same. To escape this, Lu Pu once again had to flee, and this time joined himself to Chang Mo. He arrived just as Chang Mo's brother was introducing KʻUng. KʻUng said to Mo, "The disruption of the empire has begun and warriors are seizing what they can. It is strange that you, with all the advantages you enjoy, do not strike for independence." Tsao has gone on an expedition against the east, leaving his own district defenseless. Lu Pu is one of the fighting men of the day. If you and he together attacked and got Yanchao, you could then proceed to the Dominion. Chang Mo was pleased and resolved to try. Soon Lu Pu was in possession of Yanchu and its neighborhood, all but 3 small departments, which were desperately defended. Tsao had fought many battles but was always defeated, and the messenger with the evil tidings had come from him asking help. Tsao was greatly disturbed by this and said, "If my own city be lost, I have no home to return to. I must do something at once. The best thing would be to become friends with Liu Pei at any cost and return to Yanchu," said KʻUng. Then he wrote to Liu Pei, gave the letter to the waiting messenger, and broke camp. The news that the enemy had left was very gratifying to the prefect, who then invited his various defenders into the city and prepared banquets and feasts in token of his gratitude. At one of these, when the feasting was over, he proceeded with his scheme of retirement in favor of Liu Pei. Placing him in the seat of highest honor, he bowed before him, and then addressed the assembly. "I am old and feeble, and my 2 sons lack the ability to hold so important an office as this. The noble Liu is a descendant of the imperial house. He is of lofty virtue and great talent. Let him then take over the rule of this district, and only too willingly I shall retire to have leisure to nurse my health." Liu Pei replied, "I came at the request of KʻUng Wanchu because it was the right thing to do. Suchu is saved, but if I take it, surely the world will say I am a wicked man." Mai Chu said, "You may not refuse. The House of Han is failing, their realm is crumbling, and now is the time for doughty deeds and signal services. This is a fertile district, well populated, and you are the man to rule over it. But I dare not accept." "The prefect is a great sufferer," said KʻUng, "and cannot see to matters. You may not decline, sir," said Yuan. Yuan Shu belongs to a family of rulers, and the highest offices of state were held 4 times in 3 generations. The whole empire respects him. Why not invite him to this task? Because he is a rotting bone in a dark tomb, not worth talking about. This opportunity is a gift from heaven, and you will never cease to regret its loss, said KʻUng. So spake KʻUng, but still Liu Pei obstinately refused. Tiao Chin besought him with tears. I shall die if you leave me, and there will be none to close my eyes. Brother, you should accept the offer thus made, said Kuan Yu. Why so much fuss? Said Chang Fei. We have not taken the place, it is he who wishes to give it you. You all persuade me to do what is wrong, said Liu Pei. Thrice did Tiao entreat Liu Pei, and thrice was he refused. Then he said, as he is set in his determination, perhaps he will consent to encamp at Hsiope. It is only a little town, but thence he can keep watch and ward over this city. They all with one voice prayed Liu Pei to consent, so he gave in. The feast of victory being now ended, the time came to say farewell. When KʻUng took his leave, Liu Pei held his hands alternately while dashing away the falling tears. KʻUng and his leader went home to their own place. When Liu Pei and his brothers took up their abode in Hsiope, they first repaired the defenses, and then they put out proclamations in order to calm the inhabitants. In the meantime, Tsao had marched toward his own district. His cousin, Tsao met him and told him Lu Pu was very strong and he had KʻUng as advisor. Yanchu was as good as lost, with the exception of 3 small districts which had been desperately defended. Tsao said, I own that Lu Pu is a bold fighter, but nothing more. He has no craft, so we need not fear him seriously. Then he gave orders to make a strong camp till they could think out some victorious plan. Lu Pu, knowing of Tsao's return, called 2 of his subordinate captains, Sui Lan and Lai Feng, to him, and assigned to them the task of holding Yanchu, saying, I have long waited for opportunity to employ your skill. Now I give you a legion, and you are to hold the city while I go forth to attack Tsao. They made no objection, but KʻUng, the strategist, came in hastily, saying, You are going away, whither? I am going to camp my men at Pying, that vantage point. You are making a mistake, said KʻUng. The 2 you have chosen to defend this are unequal to the task. For this expedition, remember that about 180 lie due south, on the road to Tiatian, is a very advantageous position where you should place your best men in ambush. Tsao will hasten homeward by double marches when he hears what has happened, and if you strike when half his men have gone past this point, you may seize him. Said Lu Pu, I am going to occupy Pying and see what develops. How can you guess? So he left the 2 captains in command at Yanchu and went away. Now when Tsao approached the dangerous part of the road near Tiatian, K'uochia warned him to take care, as there was doubtless an ambush. But his master laughed. We know all his dispositions. Do you think he has laid an ambush? I shall tell Tsao to besiege Yanchu, and I shall go to Pying. When KʻUng heard of the enemy's approach, he spoke, saying, The enemy will be fatigued with long marches, so attack quickly, before they have time to recover. Lu Pu replied, I, a single horseman, am afraid of none. I go and come as I will. Think you I fear this Tsao? Let him settle his camp, I will take him after that. Now Tsao neared KʻUng, and he made a camp. And soon after he led out his commanders, and they arrayed their men in open and desert country. Tsao took up his station on horseback between the two standards, watching while his opponents arrived and formed up in a circular area. Lu Pu was in front, followed by 8 of his captains, all strong men. 2 were called Chang Liao and Sang Pa, and there were 6 others. They had 5 legions. The drums began their thunderous roll, and Tsao, pointing to his opponent, said, "You and I had no quarrel. Why then did you invade my land? The empire of Han is the possession of all. What is your special claim?" said Lu. So saying, he ordered Sang Pa to ride forth and challenge. From Tsao's side, the challenge was accepted by Yo Chin. The 2 steeds approached each other. 2 spears were lifted both together, and they exchanged near 2 score blows with no advantage to either. Then Hu Tun rode out to help his colleague, and in reply, out went Chang Liao from Lu Pu's side. And they 4 fought. Then fierce anger seized upon Lu Pu. Setting his spear, he urged his steed forward to where the fight was waging. Seeing him approach, Hu and Yo both fled, but Lu Pu pressed on after them, and Tsao's army lost the day. Retiring a long way, they made a new camp. Lu Pu called in and mustered his men. The day having gone against him, Tsao called a council, and Yu Qin said, "From the hilltops today I saw a camp of our enemies on the west of KʻUng. They were but few men therein, and tonight, after today's victory, it will not be defended. Let us attack, and if we can take the camp, we shall strike fear into the heart of Lu Pu. This is our best plan." Tsao thought so too. He and 6 of his lieutenants and 2 legions left that night by a secret road for the camp. In Lu Pu's camp was rejoicing for that day's victory, when KʻUng reminded him of the West Camp and its importance, and said that it might be attacked. Lu Pu replied that the enemy would not dare approach after that day's defeat. Tsao is a very able commander," replied KʻUng. "You must keep a good lookout for him lest he attack our weak spot." So arrangements were made for defense. At dusk, Tsao reached the camp and began an immediate attack on all 4 sides. The defenders could not hold him off. They ran in all directions, and the camp was captured. Near the 4th watch, when the party told off to help defend the camp reached it, Tsao sallied forth to meet them and met KʻUng. Another battle then began and waged till dawn. About that time, a rolling of drums was heard in the west, and they told Tsao that Lu Pu himself was at hand. Thereupon Tsao abandoned the attack and fled. They pursued him, Lu Pu taking the lead. 2 of Tsao's lieutenants attacked the pursuers but could not check them. Tsao went away north, but from behind some hills came out more of Lu Pu's army, and as they could not be beaten off, Tsao sought safety in the west. Here again his retreat was barred. The fight became desperate. Tsao dashed at the enemy's array. The din was terrible. Arrows fell like pelting rain upon them, and they could make no headway. He was desperate and cried out in fear, "Who can save me?" Then from the crush dashed out Tyne with his double lance, crying, "Fear not, my master." He leapt from his steed, leaned his double lance against a wall, and laid hold of a handful of darts. Turning to his followers, he said, "When the ruffians are at 10 paces, call out to me." Then he set off with mighty strides, plunging forward careless of the flying arrows. Lu Pu's horsemen followed, and when they got near, the followers shouted, "10 paces." 5 then Cole shouted back Tyne and went on. Presently 5 paces. Then Tyne spun round and flung the darts. With every fling a man fell from the saddle, and never a dart missed. Having thus slain half a score, the remainder fled, and Tyne quickly remounted his steed, set his twin lance, and rushed again into the fight with a vigor that none could withstand. One by one, his opponents yielded, and he was able to lead TSO safely out of the press of battle. TSO and his captains went to their camp. But as evening fell, the noise of pursuit fell on their ears, and soon appeared Lu Pu himself. "TSO, you rebel, do not flee," shouted he as he approached with his halberd ready for a thrust. All stopped and looked in each other's faces. The men were weary, their steeds spent. Fear smote them, and they looked around for some place of refuge. "You may lead your lord safely out of the press, but what if the enemy follow?" We cannot say here what TSO's fate was, but the next chapter will relate.